All right, so welcome Daniel Velasco, professor at University of Kansas, and many other accolades, which I'm going to let you talk about yourself because you're a busy guy. So I just want to thank you for coming here.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this series. I had the opportunity to watch some of the videos that you've created so far with so many interesting flutists, teachers, performers, and I'm just honored to be included. My name is Daniel Velasco. I'm originally from Ecuador. I grew up in Quito, Ecuador, the capital, and yeah, I basically spent my my early years there. And when I was 18, I left the country so that I could pursue my college studies here in the U.S. And I've been here ever since. So I've been here for I think it's 16, 17 years already.
Yes.
So it feels like I just got here, but it's actually been a while. So and I'm currently the flute professor at the University of Kansas.
Great. Where did you or when did you start playing the flute? What age and how did you choose that instrument?
Yeah, I started playing the flute at 9.
Mhm.
I entered the conservatory in Quito at 6. That's when we usually, at least at that time, that's when everyone was starting their studies in music. And my parents, they were always very supportive of the arts. Um, Both my sister and I were interested in the arts. She started doing ballet, and I was into music, so we both started around the same time. So at that time at the conservatory, you were supposed to study 3 years of just music theory. We did a lot of solfege and dictation and like basic music theory stuff. And then after 3 years of that, you were supposed to pick an instrument.
Mhm.
And so when it came time for me to do that, I always wanted to be a pianist. I was always very attracted to the piano, but there were no piano teachers. It's a very popular instrument, of course. And my teacher told me, my theory teacher at the time, she said, "Well, why don't you consider the flute? You're very good at the recorder. During those 3 years, we all were supposed to play the recorder. And she said, you have great facility for that, good air, and your fingers move well. So why don't you think about the flute?" And she said, they need at least 3 flutists in the orchestra also. So you might actually get a job at some point. And I said, sure. I mean, I was 9. I didn't know any better. And so I just signed up for flute lessons, and then I found a teacher, and it all started there. And then after that, you go through the conservatory curriculum, and so I studied for a few years, and then I had to present degree recitals, and I ended up graduating from the conservatory at the same time as I graduated from high school. So then that was it, in terms of music studies in Ecuador.
Mhm.
Um, right now, there are some options in terms of university programs for music there, but at the time it was very, very limited and not quite established. So it was clear to me that I had to either pursue something else or leave the country and pursue it somewhere else. So then I met my teacher, the person who became my first college teacher, Angelita Floyd,
Yeah.
who comes to Ecuador every year for a flute festival. And this flute festival is actually uh, it had a huge impact on my growing up years, because I was always involved, somehow in the festival, and I would always go back every year, and you kind of develop a connection with the guest artist. So Angelita, I actually met her when I was, maybe 12 or something like that, and she really, saw me kind of grow up. And then when it came time to decide where to study, I knew that she was one of my best options. And so yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in Iowa, in Cedar Falls, Iowa. From Quito to Iowa, and that's where my college career started.
Awesome. So, which teachers have influenced you the most? You mentioned Angelita Floyd early on, and that's how you got to the US initially. But who are some other teachers who have influenced you the most?
Yeah, I think I've been very lucky to have some wonderful teachers, obviously teaching me how to play the flute, but also sort of mentoring me and kind of suggesting a path as I go forward. And I find that they've been there for me at the right time, and I find that to be a blessing. Starting in Ecuador, obviously my first teacher was wonderful. Luis Carrera is his name, and he was very very devoted to the just the the fact of teaching me, everything he knew. It was so generous. I was his first student, actually, first student ever. And so I feel like he treated me like, like a first son or something like
Mm.
that, like he just gave me everything with such generosity. So I'm always grateful for that. And then the other person that I mentioned before is the organizer of these festivals in Ecuador, Luciano Carrera, who happens to be his dad, my
Oh,
first teacher's dad. And so he's just such an important figure and a role model for everyone in Ecuador, not just flutists. Such um, a devoted musician. Who really just gave his life to music. And at whatever cost. And so that's inspiring. And he was one of the people who suggested that I go study with Angelita in the first place. So then, of course, Angelita Floyd, she's that teacher to me. She's that teacher that I have in my head when I'm teaching. You know what I mean? So it's that voice, and the thing is, when I was studying with her, of course, I was listening to everything she was saying. I was following the advice and all of that. But what I wasn't necessarily understanding at the time is that I was also learning how to teach, from her, because she is just a pedagogue, that is genius, and so I organize my own, I structure my lessons in the way that she did. I just get so much from her pedagogy. And she wrote the famous Gilbert Legacy book, the Gilbert Legacy, that is something that I have multiple copies in my in my office. And again, it's just such a great reminder of structured, organized pedagogy that I always have in in the back of my head. It's Angelita always there. And then I was also very fortunate to study with Marian Gadikian and Amy Porter, my other two teachers. That as wonderful performers, very such inspired artists, and just being around them is just uplifting. So, and then my last teacher, also very important to me, Trudy Kane, who, of course, taught me wonderful things, but more than anything, I think of her as that mentor that I needed to kind of become a professional, and bridge the gap between student and professional. And so yeah, she's that person that I still call all the time, and, oh, what do you think about this, and what about that job, or you know what I mean.
yeah.
So she's that mentor for me, and I'm just so thankful to have found her and to have studied with her. You know, she retired. She's now retired, so I
Yeah.
was so lucky to be one of her last students. So yeah, those are my teachers, and you know, and as a teacher myself now, I hope that I can be that guide, you know, that encouragement, that empowerer, you know, to my own
Yeah.
students as well. So
Yeah, because every teacher for everyone has such an impact. Whether you finish, continue studying music or not, they can really make you such a like lifelong appreciator of the art form, which is
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, and not only that, but also, you know, as a person, as a professional, as a human being, you know, it's such a there's such role models in so many different ways. So.
Yeah. And so now you're at the University of Kansas. How did you end up there? I know you were in Akron before that as well. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So I, you know, I did a lot of studies. I have 4 degrees, and then at the end of my doctoral degree, I started applying for teaching jobs. And my first teaching job was, as you said, at the University of Akron in Ohio, and I was there for 2 years. And then this job opened. Um, and I was invited to apply, and I ended up winning the job, and it's been this is now my 4th year here.
oh, awesome.
So yeah, I just got tenure, so very happy about that.
Congrats.
And yeah, so very much enjoying it here. It's really close to Kansas City, about 40 minutes from Kansas City, which is a wonderful city.
Yeah.
You know, they have a great symphony, great concert hall there, and Lawrence is a very. I don't know if you've been here, but it's a very very fun college town. You know, very beautiful and calm, and no
Yeah.
traffic and all this. So yeah, it's great.
Awesome. So tell us more about your flute studio there at the University of Kansas. What kind of students do you have? What sort of degrees are they pursuing? And what do you look for in your potential students?
Yeah, what I really enjoy about the studio here is that it's a very diverse group of flutists, meaning that they're pursuing all kinds of different paths in music. Of course, we have the your standard, music education majors and music performance, but we also have, for example, a very good music therapy program here at the University of Kansas. In fact, I think it was the first one in the country, and a lot of the music therapy students happen to be flutists. So a big part of my flute studio is music therapy students.
That's great.
So that's very interesting. We also offer a, BA degree, Bachelor of Arts, which is a great degree that allows a lot of flexibility, especially for students who are pursuing double majors. So I have students who are doing engineering and music, or psychology and music, or architecture and music. So it's a very flexible degree that allows that. So and then of course I have graduate students. We have a master's degree, an artist diploma, and a doctoral degree as well. So that, with all these different options, the result in the flute studio is this very, diverse group of people pursuing all kinds of different paths, and also, different ages, because you go
Yeah.
from 18, 17, 18 undergraduates, all the way up to, my current doctoral student is 30, for example.
Awesome. And so with so many diverse degrees and age ranges, I assume they all interact together at some point or another several times to the semester. Do you find that like the older students or the ones who are pursuing doctoral degrees learn from the undergraduates and vice versa? Like they all, I assume, interact and help each other.
Absolutely, yeah. I find that to be the case. Well, we all meet as a studio once a week for studio class, like most universities do, and that's always a good opportunity to play for each other, perform our pieces, our etudes. We do technique day, whatever it is. Also, it's a good opportunity for me to host guest artists. Whenever we have guest artists, they will come during studio class time, and again, everyone gets to perform. Um, but we also do other things that that sort of help them learn how to work with each other. For example, we have this flute day. We have
Mhm.
a flute day every year, which is organized by the students. They have a student organization called the KU Flute Club, and it's completely student run. And they I advise them on the certain guest artists, or I help make the connection with whoever we want to bring, but they are the ones putting it all together. So when they do that, they really get to get their hands dirty in a way, to really learn about organization and logistics and printing programs, like how to write a program, how to, summarize a biography, whatever it is, they need to be involved. They all have tasks. They do fundraisers, they do all these administrative things that, you know, uh, otherwise they wouldn't know how to do them, and they really get a chance to do those things. So that's helps them become even more connected to each other, I think, and to work well together. And in terms of the older or the younger learning from each other, I find that my undergraduate studio is very strong, which I really enjoy because it keeps the graduate students sort of on their toes, and it's great because it only brings the level higher for everybody, really.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that we have blind auditions here for the ensembles, so it's really all about how they play it in their audition, and we try to make it as close to real life as possible in those terms. So sometimes there might be a surprise where a younger student will place higher than a master student or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
that's the way it is. They earn that spot, and they have to spend that semester in that chair. You know what I mean? And so, I think it's a great sort of real life experience, and they all learn from that, and they all try harder the next time, um, and so I think that in that way they get to interact also in terms of learning from each other. So
That's great. Especially, yeah, both of those things are great. Having them organize an event and do blind auditions while they're still in school, because it's a lot of, if you're performing, that's a lot of what you end up doing is blind auditions. And there are lots of flute organizations around the country that they might get involved with in the future that will get them prepared for all of that, or any arts organization. So that's smart to
yeah,
do.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So we spoke briefly, and you mentioned that the University of Kansas has a sort of system where you spend 40% of your time teaching, 40% doing research, and then 20% is service. What sort of things are you doing beyond teaching at the school to fulfill that research and service part of your position?
Yeah, so that's sort of the definition of my job here, my teaching, my research, and my service. So my teaching obviously is teaching lessons and coaching chamber music. And I also teach a pedagogy class every other year. So that's my teaching. Then my research is really, for us, the research is really, performing and recording, whatever you can do to stay active in the field. So for me, one of my main things that I do is I perform with this orchestra in Miami that's called NuDeco Ensemble. Um, that I've been involved with them since I was a student there at the University of Miami. Um, and then when I left Miami, when I got my first job, um, I asked them if well, we had a conversation, what's going to happen now that you're leaving? But they are not. We do about 8 concerts a year, so I'm able to fly back for as many of them as I can. Not all of them, but as many as possible. So that is something that I really value in my own playing, because it's a group that is it's just a really really fun group to be a part of. We call ourselves a genre bending orchestra, and uh, what that means is that we collaborate with different artists. We have a lot of guest artists. For every concert we have a different a different, like a singer, or it's a pop singer, or a rapper, or a jazzer, or whatever it is. It's different genres. So this genre bending, it's a lot of fun. But not only that, we have a wonderful arranger and composer who comes up with original suites or orchestral pieces that are inspired by you know famous bands or groups or singers. For example, this last week, when we had our call last week, I was in Miami doing a concert with them, and we played a suite inspired by the music of Pink Floyd.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
we've done, yeah, so we've done a suite. Like the recent ones that come to mind are, we did one inspired by Queen. We did one inspired by the music of Prince. We've done Nina Simone. We've done Michael Jackson. So it's, people will recognize these tunes, but they are arranged for the orchestra, or for it's an orchestral suite, and we all get our features. It's a lot of fun because it's a smaller orchestra, so the wind section is just flute, clarinet, oboe, bassoon, and bass clarinet. So it's just five of us, very exposed, but very very fun. And the orchestra is a small string section, um, small brass section, but it's great. It's really really a lot of fun. Um, and so that's a big part of what I do with my research. I go to Miami a few times a year. Of course, in addition to that, I do solo recitals, like university tours, things like that,
Yeah.
paired with a master class, and things like that. Chamber music. I have a trio here with viola and harp, with my colleagues here at KU, that we like to play a lot together. We like to do at least one big recital every year, if not every semester. Obviously, with COVID, it's been all kinds of different schedules, but we just had one recital this semester with my trio again. We hope to have more of that. Um, and then I always enjoy subbing with different groups as well. I sub with the Kansas City Symphony a lot. I'm currently playing with the Kansas City Chamber Orchestra, and just keeping up my own playing as well. In the summer, lots of chamber music festivals,
Mhm.
um, and some international flute festivals as well. Um, but yeah, that's the research, and then the service is different. It's serving on different committees for the university, for the School of Music. I also do some service for the National Flute Association.
You won the NFA Young Artist Competition. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
did.
you chair that committee now, I think.
So now I'm the coordinator of the Young
Yeah.
Artist Competition.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun to do that, to be on the other side of that. It always triggers memories, from my own participation way back. This was, I did it in 2008, so it's been
Mhm.
it's been a long time, but now it's really fun to be able to kind of give back with the coordination of the competition.
That's awesome. Tell me more about the festivals you do in the summertime, because that's where you kind of got your start and met Angelita. You still do a lot of stuff in Latin America, especially over the summer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the main one that I like to return to, and I'm going back finally this year. It's been virtual for the last 2 years, but this year we're doing it in person. Is this festival in Ecuador? You know, the International Flute Festival in Quito. And that one is very meaningful to me because that's how I started. You know, that's what really sort of helped me understand what the level was outside of Ecuador, you know, like in a more international, with a more international perspective.
Mhm.
And it also gave me a lot of opportunities. You know, one of the years when I participated in this festival, they organized a competition. Sometimes these festivals will have like a young artist competition or some sort of contest. And they did a competition and I won the competition and one of the prizes was to go study in Italy for a little bit. So I went to Italy when I think I was 14 or 15. You know, I went there for you know, I think it was like 3 or 4 months.
Oh,
I lived in Rome, you know, took lessons at Santa Cecilia, you know, and it was amazing, you know, and all of that came from this, you know, from this festival. So it's very meaningful to me. Also, the person who organizes this festival, his name is Luciano Carrera, and he is a big flute figure in Ecuador and in Latin America, really. And he is. I know one of the questions was, you know, do you have some people that you look up to or like
yeah.
influential teachers? I would definitely say he's one of them, and not only because he's a wonderful player and obviously a virtuosic flutist, but because he is so generous with his with with you know what he sees as the future of the flute in Ecuador in this case, you know, and a lot of the times, you know, he organizes the festival with his own money, you know, just like writing
Wow.
checks, like, you know, like out of his pocket. And it's because he loves it and he understands the vision of you know, what he's doing, and he is committed to it no matter what it takes. So, you know, to be doing that for, you know, this year is going to be the 30th festival that they do. To be doing that for 30 years in a row is really, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And especially when you see the results of it, you know, you see um, people who have been able to benefit from this festival, like myself. I have many other friends from Ecuador who were also able to, you know, gain a lot from it, get degrees from the U.S. or, you know, whatever it is that they were able to make out of this festival. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's one of the things that I do in the summer. I'm currently playing in a chamber festival in Arkansas as well, with a friend of mine who is organizing it at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. So I'll be there for a couple of weeks. I was also asked to join the faculty of this festival. It's called Festival de Guaranda, which is also organized by musicians from Ecuador. And we were planning on the first tour that this was like an orchestral festival. So
Hmm.
the first tour was going to happen in 2020, and it was going to be, you know, a tour of Panama, Colombia, and Ecuador
Yeah.
that year. And so obviously it was canceled, but, you know, we're hoping that it will return again. And then, you know, I've been part of festivals, you know, in other countries in Latin America as well as the Orchestra of the Americas,
Mhm.
which, you know, it's basically a summer festival that tours different parts of the Americas every year. So I was part of that for 2 summers, and we toured Chile and Central America, and so those are some of the summer activities. Yeah.
Just some. What do you do? You've got a lot going on. Do you have any like practices or anything you do to help yourself stay grounded and focused when you've got all these different things going on?
Yeah, you know, I I've never, like freaked out about things. I think that everyone just works differently. And to me, I always say yes to everything. I'm that like one of those people. And sometimes when you say yes to everything, then you see your calendar like all red and crossed, and you're like, uh-oh. Uh, but then, I remember when I was finishing my doctorate. And I was having a lot of things to 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 do well, in a row, and I finally started to become a little, overwhelmed, and I came to my again another important teacher for me, Trudy Kane, my
Yeah.
last teacher, and I said to her, I'm a little stressed. I don't know if I can do all of these things that I see coming up, and she said, you just have to do one thing at a time. And if you focus on doing that one thing really well, and don't think about anything else, but that's just one thing, then you'll be surprised at how many things you can do well, in a short period of time. And so, you know, again, I know it sounds simple and it sounds like, well, yeah, of course. But then when you're in the middle of that crazy moment, it
Yep.
really makes a huge difference. So I've been doing that, and it's gotten me through, I mean, academia is really kind of a crazy world in terms of how many things you have to get done that are not only related to performing, right? It's a lot of other things, a lot of organization and paperwork and reports and things like that. But again, one thing at a time, and I've been able to survive so far. So
Yeah. So you also do some recording. You have been working on an album of all Ecuadorian music, yeah?
mostly Ecuadorian music. Yeah, we recorded uh, Ecuadorian music and the Zeman Flute Sonata, and number one. So we recorded that actually at the end of 2020. But it's, as you know, it's a long process of whatever it needs to be done, editing and all
Yeah.
of that. So it's gonna come out on Naxos this August.
Awesome.
So very excited about that. It'll be my first solo album that I've ever done. I've been part of other, things, but not as the main, soloist. So I'm very excited about that. And we've been performing this music with my collaborator Ellen Sommer on tour, at different universities, recitals, chamber series, stuff like that. And we've gotten a lot of great responses. So and people are often asking, where can we get this, or where can we get the music or the recording
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's finally going to be available, this fall. So we're very excited about that.
That's exciting. That's great. And I personally, I grew up in a household that was a little more international. My dad is Greek, but was born in Brazil. So I grew up around a lot of
Wow.
different music. So I always enjoy hearing flute being played in non-classical settings, like Marco Granados's album of Venezuela music, one of my favorites to listen to. So I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it seems like, especially right now, we're all looking for, different repertoire. I find, things that are different, maybe from composers of other countries that, you may have never heard of, underrepresented composers, whatever it is, this is a good, maybe it's something to consider to
Yeah,
add to a recital, to different style, yeah, so we're excited to be able
awesome.
to offer that.
Do you think you'll have sheet music to accompany it at some point?
Yes, that's part of the project too. So I'm currently working with a publishing company, to see if we can get all of those scores out, at the hopefully at the around the same time. So that's also in the works.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, what kind of advice would you give to someone who is getting ready to go teach and do, or maybe follow a similar path to you, or who is, you know, in a similar career track as yourself? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. I feel like we are all so different, you know, and we all find our path in different ways. Um, but you know, for me, for example, when people ask me, when did you know that you wanted to be a teacher? Uh, it's I feel bad because I didn't always want to be a teacher. Like I actually didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew that I wanted to be a great flutist, you know, and I went through a lot of my degrees just trying to be better and better and better. And then at some point I was like, well, what am I going to do, you know, like in terms of pay my bills and stuff like that, you know, what am I doing here? And so I actually only discovered a passion of teaching when I was doing my artist diploma at University of Michigan, where I was given a teaching assistantship and I had to teach some students. And then I realized, oh, I actually really like doing this, you know, like explaining and making the students better and sharing things that I knew that worked and you know things like that. And then after that, I decided to get a doctorate. So it came very late to me, you know. But what didn't come late to me was this wish of getting better. You know, I always wanted to be better. I always try to improve on whatever I was doing. Uh, and so I think that that was very helpful to me because I was just gathering a lot of knowledge at the same time, you know. So so one thing that I will say is you know there are just a lot of distractions nowadays that I see my own students struggling with, you know. Oh, I have to make sure that I have my Instagram updated or my you know my website and all of those things which are great things, but sometimes I see them kind of losing focus a little bit in terms of what is really important. And what is really important is to be an awesome flutist. You know, I think that's really important to become the best flutist that you can be, because once you have that, then you have options. You know, then you're okay. Maybe I want to be in an orchestra, or maybe I want to be a great teacher, or I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to, you know. But you need to really become the best flutist first that you can be, in my opinion, you know, so that you can then choose, as opposed to, oh well, I'm not good enough, so I'm going to do this, you know, or you know, I think that working really hard to become the best version of yourself is really important, because it can just teach you so much about, you know, that part of you that you are capable of achieving, you know. And that's very empowering. So that's one of the things that I can give as advice. And then the other thing is that is also maybe a very simple thing, but especially now that I'm being part of, you know, search committees and things like that, we're hiring people. uh, Being nice is it's sometimes underrated. I think it's very important to no matter the circumstance, no matter the gig that you're doing, no matter, you know, the level of the gig, if you can just be kind and nice to everyone, I think that that goes a long way,
Yeah.
because you know, the music world and the flute world is they're both very small, you know. And both kindness and good, you know, interactions, uh, people talk about those things, you know. And they also talk about the other things, you know, the not so good things. So those things come back all the time, you know, back and forth. So if you can train yourself to just be, you know, the best positive version of yourself in any circumstance that you're in, I think that's always it can help you sometimes in ways that you don't even know, you know.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that, especially lately, you know, that I've noticed can help you, you know, advancing. So
It's very true. It's very true. I had a student that I had met through the work that I do, and recently they were applying to jobs at other flute companies, and someone mentioned their name, and I said, you know, that person is, I remember meeting them really respectful human being, like you should definitely hire them if you think they're a good fit for the job, because the impression they left on me was so strong that years later.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, you want to hire someone who is a wonderful flutist and
Yeah,
a great worker, but also you want to hire someone that you want to work with, someone that you could have a good time with, interactions, and yeah, so
yeah,
it's very helpful. Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I want to thank you again so much for doing with us. I know when I mentioned that we were going to interview you, everyone here was very excited. I know Phil says hello and lots of my other colleagues. So I want to thank you again. When your album comes out, everyone, please go listen to it. And maybe we can have you here in our shop sometime to do performance.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for including me. I'm very honored, and thanks to Phil. I've known Phil for a very long time. I think I was telling you during the pre-interview. I met Phil in Ecuador. He came to one of
Yeah,
these festivals, and I actually bought a flute for him. So I've known him for a very long time, and lots of wonderful, friendly faces at the Flute Center as well. So thanks for having me.
you're very welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn more about our guests, there's more information below. If you're a teacher, make sure to sign up for ClubFCNY to unlock free shipping, extended trials, and commission for teachers, as well as other exclusive benefits for you and your students. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe.